Long ago, when the blood of gods and men still mingled in the soil of the world, the hero Hercules was born. But his birth was no blessing. No, it was a curse, for he was the son of Zeus himself, the mightiest of the Olympian gods, which drove Hera, Zeus's jealous wife, into a rage that boiled beyond sanity. But anger was not enough. Hera was a goddess of wrath, and wrath required vengeance. So she made a pact with the forgotten creatures of the shadows, things that crawled through the mountains and whispered nightmares into the ears of sleeping men. And when the time of vengeance came, she sent her curse to the infant's cradle in the form of 2 monstrous serpents, their eyes glowing with the color of blood. Now most babes would have cried out in terror at the sight, but Hercules was no ordinary babe. For even in that moment he was touched by the strength of his godly fathers. For he seized the creatures and strangled them with his tiny fists, as if death had already taken hold of his soul. And so it was that from his first breath he slew his first monsters. As he grew, Hercules was haunted by whispers in the dark, by things no one else could see, the wailing spirits of fallen warriors begging for release. And his eyes burned with a fire that could not be quenched, and in his heart there was an endless hollow, yawning like the mouth of an ancient beast. For though Hera's curse had been lifted from his body, it now festered in his soul, twisting and corrupting him, waiting for the moment to strike again. And when he became a man, Hera struck again. She sent madness upon him, a black cloud over his mind. In a fit of blind rage, Hercules slaughtered his wife and children with his bare hands, believing them to be monsters thirsty for his blood. And when the blood mist lifted and he saw what he had done, the earth itself seemed to cry out in agony beneath him, and the dead stared at him with open, glassy eyes. Desperately, he fled to a cursed temple at the base of a forgotten mountain. And there, a blind priest, his body deformed by fire, whispered of a grim redemption, a path to undo the madness, and atoned for the blood he had spilled. But the path was fraught with peril, for the only way to cleanse his soul was to complete the 12 labors, impossible tasks that would tear apart his body and damn his soul. So he began his labors. And the first led him to the Nemean lion, a creature of legend with skin of iron, impenetrable to blade or arrow. Hercules wrestled the beast by hand, deep in a blood-red fog, battling for 3 nights and 3 days, until at last he crushed its throat between his arms, hearing the lion's spirit shatter in the howling wind. But each labor was worse than the last. He slew monstrous birds with wings like knives, each feather a harbinger of death. He captured a giant boar that feasted on the souls of the dead, rooting through graves and leaving only bones behind. And finally, he descended into the underworld to drag back Cerberus, the 3-headed hound that wept molten tears and guarded the gates of Hades. With each task, Hercules' body weakened, his skin torn and bloodied, his muscles aching with exhaustion. But his spirit grew darker, more tormented, for he was hunted by creatures of nightmare, pursued by the echoes of screams in the dead of night. And he no longer knew if he was the hunter or the hunted. For the last labor, he was tasked to steal the golden apples of the Hesperides, guarded by a dragon with 100 heads. But Hercules was weary, his limbs heavy, his eyes dim with pain, so he did not fight the monster, but slumped against the trunk of an ancient oak. And in his delirium, he saw the faces of his slain wife and children, and he reached out to touch them, and they vanished like smoke on the wind. And then he heard a voice. No, not a voice, a presence. It brushed against his mind, slithered through his thoughts, and it spoke to him of power, of vengeance, a world remade in blood and fire. And Hercules, broken and desperate, welcomed the darkness as a drowning man clings to driftwood. And when the apples were stolen and the labor was complete, no gods greeted him. Olympus stood empty, abandoned, forgotten, and Hercules, now a puppet of the shadows, sat on its cold throne, a crown of twisted thorns upon his head, his eyes burning with a terrible light as the shadows claimed him completely, whispering promises of greater power, of a legacy forged in blood and fire. And so ended the tale of Hercules, the son of Zeus, the hero who became a monster, the champion of the gods who turned against them all, becoming a puppet of the very darkness he once banished, forever trapped in an endless cycle of war and bloodshed.